home alone on the farm, and I have been drawing, getting annoyed at our chickens because they're little shits. They've been like pooping all over the patio, and the worst part of it is that, okay, the patio is like white, right, and the poop just looks so poopy, and it's like cleaning it up is a mess. And I've tried all methods. I've been reading about raising chickens. For those of you who don't know, we have chickens on the farm. They're ours, but we never asked for them. We didn't buy chickens. Somebody, my partner's uncle, just left them at the farm, and we had to raise them. So now we have chickens. But we grew to love them. We even named them and everything. And as soon as they got bigger, I wanted them obviously to roam freely, to be free chickens, because we have a lot of space. But they're little shits. They're just little shits. And today, that's been the only stressful part. I've even like gotten a sweat from it, but it's also very hot, so might be a mix. So I haven't been here on a long time talking about things. I mean, the last video was a tag, but I wanted to talk about keeping the wild in us and decolonizing goodness in a way. I just recently posted something on my Instagram, and for those of you who already know me on Instagram and follow me, hey, for those who don't, make sure if you like what I speak about sometimes that you do. So on my Instagram, I was talking about being a good girl, right? And I was relating it to this movie I saw once called Room. The main character was abducted by a child predator, and she even had a child by that predator. And in one very memorable scene in the movie, like that's the only line I truly remember because it really like stuck in my head. It's like, well, if you hadn't raised me to be such a good girl, maybe I wouldn't have gone through the horrors I went through. And that really clicked something with me, because it made me think about how good should a person be, and especially as women in a sexist world, and especially as a black woman in a sexist, racist world, patriarchal world. And you can add more to that up depending on where in the axis of intersectional oppression you are found. Okay, don't get me wrong, like I think people should always be the good they can be, you know, do the best you can do. Towards yourself, always first, fill your own bucket first, and then towards others. Unless you're a psychopath, I believe that naturally you know what that is. I don't need to be like, unless you kill people and that's what makes people good, you know? Checking on my shitty chickens. Yeah, so it's important for us to be good. I wouldn't disagree with that. It's important to be a good person, not only for yourself, but for it makes the world a bit kinder and softer place to be, right? Okay. But I also was pondering on how goodness is preyed upon, you know. And on this channel, of course, we talk about racism, decolonization, and also the psychological effects of colonization and racism, and just living in a system of white supremacy. But also, I think beyond that, in a system that has monopolized good and bad, whether through religion or just a moral base that is not native to the majority of people on Earth. When people were colonized, one of the most important things to do towards them was, oh my God, I need maybe a bit more. One of the most important things to do to them was change the way they saw good and bad, change the way they related to their world, their morality, and so on. And so those were important things, because when you can dictate how a person sees what it means to be a good being, human, whatever they call their human experience in that language or that culture, or that race, whatever it might be, and you change it to yours, then you get to decide what is good and bad, right? And part of like decolonization that goes beyond just, you know, the physical, and also of course the mental, but also maybe perhaps even the moral of what is good and bad, and decolonizing that, because in a way, in our current society, good is preyed upon. And it doesn't mean play fire with fire, but recognize fire at least. Recognize how to counterfeit fire, how to be water but not drips of water, a violent wave. A violent wave, and that our tools against oppression or against sexism or any ism, it goes beyond hug and pray for people. In Happy Feet, there is a story where the birds, I think, are trying to eat Happy Feet, and they tell the story that one bird tells all the time, because he has like a plastic thing, a tag on his leg or something like that, by humans, you know. I really like that movie. And then he's like, why did they let you go? And he's like, I think I appealed to their better nature. And Happy Feet says, could I appeal to your better nature? And they laugh and they're like, no, you couldn't appeal to a better nature, you know? And that, like, of course it's just a scene, but like, that's the assumption that everybody has a better nature. All kids should know about psychology. They should know about personal disorders, including sociopathic behavior, and how to identify it and how to protect yourself from it, and how to, I don't know, like how to know that there are more people out there than just you. Not everybody has that better nature that you can appeal to. And today I was also like watching some videos on psychopaths and sociopaths, which of course in a way their effect or the way they ruin people's lives, or whether it's the individuals or groups when you talk about politicians or leaders. They are infiltrated in a lot of our spaces, you know, whether it's where you work, where you study, and how they use the fact that we believe in goodness, and like the whole Gandhi or Mandela or Martin Luther King, of like, you know, it's all based in appeal to the better nature. But that is only to say, like Malcolm X, you know, like
United States. His major assumption was that if you are nonviolent, if you suffer, your opponent will see your suffering and will be moved to change his heart. That's very good. He only made one fallacious assumption. In order for nonviolence to work, your opponent must have a conscience.
People take those sentences very lightly, but you gotta understand that we live in this world with more kinds of people than just the kinds we think exist, you know? And of course, like I could go all conspiracist and stuff, but maybe that's like from videos in the future. But there are more people out there of different mindsets than we think they are or we are taught they are. And some people see your goodness as a weakness that they can exploit to meet their own needs. And if we teach people just to be good at any means necessary, we are basically telling them to go to war with no shield. With no shield but their arms to hug their enemies with. And especially when we teach it to girls who live in a patriarchal society, or we teach it to black people in a white supremacist society. And when you look at sexism, or when you look at racism, it's like a mob consciousness, you know. Patriarchy is a mob consciousness that all men benefit from, and all men engage with, and all men support in some way, and all men have to work actively to unlearn it, just like all women have to do the same. And the same with white supremacy, because one of the definition that was used as psychopathic behavior is the need to control others' lives, because the majority of people, which is quite interesting, they need to control and manage other people's life and have power over them. And anybody who should rule over us shouldn't be someone who wants to rule over people, because usually those are psychopaths, because the majority of people just want to live their life. And I wholeheartedly agree with that. The majority of people just want to live their life, just want to exist and live in peace. They don't want to be starting wars. They don't want to be starting shit about anything. At least is what I believe, maybe in my naive world. But I think that we are controlled or managed by there are different kinds of people who have different kinds of consciousness. And you cannot rely on the fact that everybody has that better moral judgment or better consciousness that you can appeal to with your non-violence protest, or with your call to reason, or call to let's talk about it. There are psychopaths out there who see that actually as a weakness, as a free pass, that they ain't gonna do shit about nothing, you know, just talk because they're good people. We think that because I can feel bad about something I did, if somebody really comes to me and say, oh May, when you did that, You might not know it, but like you make me feel like that, and I can feel really bad about that. But a psychopath won't feel bad about that. And if you have a mob society, whether it's built on patriarchy or white supremacy or capitalism or whatever kind of hierarchy of oppression that exists and flourishes off the oppression of others, because that's what those things do. They exist and flourish on the oppression of others usually. And when you have that, and those people who enjoy that, who enjoy to have power over other people, they have a different way of seeing the world. They have a different way of wanting to arrange the world, and they have a different consciousness totally. And you have a whole group of people who are not taught about this in school. In that sense, our education is more like programming rather than education because it's based on the perspective of who validates or who allows the curriculums we're allowed to study. And in that sense, if we go by the notion that psychopaths, especially professional psychopaths, there are all kinds of ranges of psychopaths. Some are just your everyday home domestic abusers, some are your local pedophiles, but some are professional psychopaths, usually those from higher class or higher income houses. They go for, the big psychopath. They don't just kill one person or two people or rape a few people, ruin a few people's life, or do like con artist shit. But like they go for the big things, big murder, big fraud, big scams, big deception, big everything, right? And they put their money on the fact that we want so much to be good that we are not willing to do what needs to be done to protect ourselves from bad or what is bad, because that is not good. And we want to be good people, and good people don't do that, And they are cashing in on that thing that we learn in our schools. The reason that you go to school and they promote Martin Luther King and look down on Malcolm, I can attest that to my school. My teacher might not be like, don't be like Malcolm, be like Martin Luther, But the way they portrayed the history, they made it sure that Malcolm was too much. What we need to do is be like Martin Luther King, And, or like in any way, but they didn't tell the full story of how everything actually came into play, and that it wasn't just him appealing to that better nature, but there were more things behind the guys that were needed to be changed, that benefited the overall white supremacist society. It wasn't just for the good of that goodness, that good heart, like, oh my God, what we're doing is wrong. I mean, we know slavery was wrong, but we didn't know that Jim Crow was wrong. And now maybe we shouldn't be, it's bullshit. When you really think about it and you take the veil of your eyes and you really see it, it's silly to believe that that's all it took. That there were like all these millions of people who knew that there are people who live in this country with us, whatever oppression you're talking about, whatever you're talking about it with, who knew about this and knew that they were not being treated fairly, and all they needed was like somebody, a well-spoken Negro to appeal to their better nature, like in Happy Feet, and he brings the humans back to the place where the penguins are inhabiting. And then the humans see, oh my God, we're stealing all their fish. And all the officials of the world come together to make laws and to stop the exploitation of the water that is stealing fishes from the sea. That is little fantasy. That does not happen. People do not come together like that. And it's not me being a pessimist. It's me actually being, for once, because I usually consider myself a very optimistic person despite the subjects I choose to speak about on this channel. But I genuinely believe in goodness. I believe that good can prevail. But good has to be smart. Good has to be hella smart, and good has to understand bad, and has to understand that there is some bad that cannot be made good, and there is some bad that is not worth talking through. There is some bad that is not worth making friends with. I think that what I'm trying to cite with this long video is that we need to change the way we see good and the purpose of good. If good keeps you imprisoned, it's not good, in my opinion. But if good doesn't free you, if good doesn't empower you, if good doesn't liberate you, if good doesn't empower your children and put them in positions of being able to be self-sustaining, and you yourself to be self-sustaining, to rule over your own life and not have other people dictate every part of your life. If good doesn't motivate you to fight for that, and by Malcolm's onwards, by any means necessary, if you've tried everything, I would say, okay, try the good pill first. But then if they don't want to take it, to become more creative, you know? Anyway, so those are the things I've been thinking about today, researching and reading about. I hope this video made sense. And just tell me what you think about that, like decolonizing our views of goodness, or our views on the purpose of good, you know, and also the whole thing about knowing that appealing to the better judgment of others, like, is that when that is no longer the case, what are we supposed to, not what are we supposed, because I know what I'm supposed to do, but like, just share your thoughts on that. See you guys. Bye! Gain all those things by looking at ourselves and looking at what we have and using it to the best of our capabilities and restoring justice for ourselves. Anyway.